Hey guys, here we are, the Quiggin Out MMA podcast, episode 7. And with me is a very special guest, someone I've known for a very long time throughout his fight journey, Dave, the Caveman Rickels. How you doing, Dave?
What up, brother? I'm good, man. No complaints.
So it's really good to see you. Like I said, we've been doing interviews together. I think it's going on 7 or 8 years. So it's really
Yeah,
exciting
great.
to to kind of watch what you've done since then. So I kind of want to start from the beginning because I remember the first time we talked. You were in Bellator, and you still, like, it was right before that or during that you had 4 jobs. So I want you to talk a little bit about all that stuff you had to do and how different that is from where you are now.
That's crazy, but yeah, man. So you know, previous to kind of, I guess, making it in the fight game and whatnot, and I don't know. I've done a lot of entrepreneurial stuff. um, yeah, I was working this. I if this was 8 years ago with me.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I was bouncing. I was serving tables. I was training to fight, and I don't know what else I was doing. I was doing something else at the time. Personally training people. Yeah. So, I'm working 4 jobs essentially,
Hmm.
barely making ends meet. And, I won the Bellator tournament. Um, Things just started to kind of snowball. I started making some decent dough in this game, man. And, one of the truest things I've ever heard about, you know, I don't know, money in general is like, if you have a little money, it's easy to make some money.
Hmm.
And it's easier for sure, absolutely. And I mean that's just the truth. And like, I feel like a lot of fighters kind of fuck off their money. To be honest, like straight up, I'll just say it that way. They
Hmm.
fuck off their money. They spend it on dumb shit. And especially because the truth is, a lot of us aren't ever gonna make $1 million on a payday on a fight night. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Most of us are lucky to make 30, 40, 50 grand on fight night.
And that's a good night for I mean, for most, like, you know.
Right. Yeah, and I've had upwards of 60, 70, $80,000 paydays, but I took that money, I dropped 90K on a house, put a large amount down,
Hmm.
and then I bought car washes. I bought 2 car washes with that money, and those are supplying my income now. You know what I mean? Like, so I get paid to go up to the car wash and collect some money, and it's a good gig, and it allows me to train full time still. So it's a really sweet gig, honestly.
Well, and I kind of want to talk about that because watching you over the years on social media, ever since you got the car washes, seems like you've had, an issue here, an issue there. What's it like to be
Oh
the
yeah.
business, people trying to steal money and everything else?
So yeah. A hilarious part of like, all right, so I'm a car wash owner and a professional fighter, but the funny thing is, obviously these people don't give a shit,
Mm-mm.
and I'm in a kind of a rougher part of town where my car washes are at. They make great money, but they I get a lot of vandalism. I literally walk up there and there are people shooting up fucking drugs in the stalls.
Jeez.
I've had to clean up human shit a few times. Um, let's see. People try like I got an hour and a half of videotape of a guy taking a sledgehammer to the wall trying to break into the car wash. So like those are just like a few stories, honestly. Like there's been a lot of vandalism. There's a lot of vandalism. There's a lot of I don't know theft stuff. That's like a guy stole my trash cans.
I remember that. That was a story and a
Every
half.
dude, but he stole them. Like okay, so he would steal all of them. 2 days later, I'd replace. I'd have them all replaced by that time. He'd come steal them again. 2 days later, I've replaced them already. Right? He comes steal them again. I've got him on camera and stuff, but I'm like, all right, well, shit, I'm just gonna have to post up at the car wash or whatever.
Hmm.
But luckily, he had a very recognizable vehicle, and I own the city basically. And these people had to. I just sent out, I was like, hey, look for this car, blah blah blah, and
Hmm.
people found it. Like straight up, they found out where this dude was at, where he lived. Like they didn't even have a license plate or nothing. They just recognized the car, and we found. And guess what? I rolled up to their residence,
Mhm.
and all the trash cans were in their car.
In the car.
In the car. So I had two choices: beat their ass or just call the police. I called the police.
Yeah, and I remember
So
seeing that video, and it was just like, really stealing my trash cans?
yeah, I was just like, I was like shooting a video. I was like, y'all steal my trash cans for real? And you got them sitting here in your car? Y'all are dumb. I mean, they said Rick's Car Wash all over it. That's the name of my car wash.
I mean, no caveman
Just for
car
that.
wash. Cheers, sir.
No, because as much as I love the people around here, I probably have some people who are haters.
Hmm.
And if they know it's Caveman's Car Wash, they might come smash more shit up. They're like, I can't beat him up, so I better go break into his changer.
So, how did you get to owning car washes? Like, what drove you? Like you said, you wanted to invest in something. How did it become car washes?
So it was actually a sad way that I came upon it.
Mm.
My wife, her father, owned these,
Okay.
and he was never planning on selling them. He didn't want to sell them to us. Unfortunately, he passed away.
So sorry for that.
Yeah, and cancer, man, it just ruined so many lives.
Hmm.
But so this happened, and obviously they couldn't just give these car washes away. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, you can't just give something like that away.
what's her mother gonna do? You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like, oh, like, hey, like these things that gave you money your entire life, oh, you're just gonna give them away? I mean, she relied on the money too. So I was like, all right, well, how much do they make? You know, obviously I made sure they made money and whatnot.
Yeah, of
But
course.
I mean, because I'm not gonna like buy into a bad investment, but yeah. So it worked out. Like I was able to buy them, and yeah, it was a good deal.
And I think that's really cool because you kept something in the family without just somebody going, here, take this. You know, because you see so many times that people, when they take on a family business, they don't always want to be a part of it. You know, it's given to
Yeah,
them and everybody
yeah.
looks at them differently. So I think it's really
No,
cool
for
that,
sure.
um,
Yeah, no, absolutely. And one of the problems actually that is very fluent with like I know we're like going off on a tangent on car washes, but like
I don't care.
people buy car washes, people buy car washes and they think they run themselves. They
Mm-mm.
think that they're easy to run, and there is a lot of maintenance and a lot of work, and they go under a lot of times.
Mm.
Most people like they pass them down to their kids. Their kids think it's going to be easy, and they don't know how to do it. So
Hmm.
yeah,
Listen, there's nothing wrong
car
because
wash life. There it is, coming from Dave Rickels himself.
Dave's car wash. Go get your car washed.
Yep.
But I think it's great because it's been said time and time again, fighters, you guys don't have contingency plans. Like, if you don't have a contingency plan, you're done. You know, there's no commentary job that's going to pay you almost as much as you made on, in the cage. There's no, sponsorship deal that's going to keep you going. So I feel like you kind of have to take it into your own hands. And while,
Yeah, I think that fighters in general just need to. If you want me to be blunt, a lot of this has to do with like just straight up the intelligence of the fighter himself. You know what I mean? And the things that they were taught as they were growing up. You know what I mean? Like what did they do with their money before they were fighters? You know what I
hmm
mean? I was always saving my money. I was always like, um, there's a term for this, but I cannot definitely say it. But I was very like, not, I like, I would spend my money when I wanted to spend it, but most of the time I was saving it.
okay.
You know what I
You're
mean?
frugal.
So
Frugal.
like yeah, it's frugal. So like I would on vacation, of course I'm gonna spend my money. You
Hmm.
know what I mean? Like I'm gonna spend my money. Like I'm on vacation. But outside of that, like I'm pretty yeah, frugal. I like that. Frugal with my money.
Listen, you just gave me the strangest memory of going to California when I was a kid when my mom was travel nursing. And I found in some random shop a Rush CD for like $5, so I bought it. other kids my age are buying toys and whatever. I'm like, I'm buying a Rush CD in California
Rush.
that I can
Okay, hell
get
yeah.
that I can get back home. I'm sure. So,
You still listen to that?
oh, yeah, I love it, man.
That's dope.
It's been a
That's
rough
good,
year.
man.
It's been a rough year for Rush. So, I don't want to go down that road.
Yeah.
So, I want to talk about the first time we actually met. Was when you won the lightweight final. That Carl or the not the Carl Amasu. That's a whole nother story. I'm getting off track. That Syed Awad story. And probably
Yeah.
one of the weirdest things I've ever seen in a fight. So, do you remember what was going through your head when he's on the ground and you're like, what are you doing? Like, what's.
Dude. Yeah, of course I do. Honestly, I looked up, I dropped him. I
Mhm.
look over. He's laying face down on the canvas. And I threw my hands up like this. Like, it's fucking over, dude. What do you mean? Of course it's over. You're face down on the canvas. The ref is over here holding you up. You know what I mean? Like, the ref was down there, like, checking on him, holding his head up and shit.
The ref's like, get
And,
up, get up.
yeah. And so, I mean, that's a lot. Honestly, I don't, other than that, I just remember, like, grabbing the check and being, soaking up that moment, honestly, like, because that was a huge moment.
Mhm.
And I really soaked it in. And, my focus after looking at Saad Awad on the ground was not on Saad Awad anymore.
Mhm.
It was on, like, just enjoying that moment and, like, really, like, you're like, holy shit, I did this. I put everything I had into this tournament and I won it.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like, after making it to the semifinals in the welterweight tournament and being robbed by Carl Almasu. We'll go ahead and talk about that.
Oh, let's
I
do
was
it.
robbed by Carl Almasu. And then, dropping down the lightweight on the next one and winning it. You know what I mean? Like, so that was huge for me. It was crazy.
It's funny that you say that. So the first Bellator I went to, I think it was Bellator. I want to say it was 72 one of the first times I came to Tampa, and I remember I got to meet Carl Amasu, and I took the standard like pose picture, and he looks at me and he goes, "Why are you shaking?" And I was
Oh,
like,
shit.
and I realized that a few minutes prior, I was like, "Check out the pink jacket," and I said it a little bit louder than I expected to,
Oh,
and he looked over
hilarious.
at me, and I went,
Yeah.
uh-oh. And so my friend goes to interview him, and he goes, no, 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 no. You were the one making fun of my jacket.
Yeah.
And I went, no, that was me.
Oh, I
Not,
believe it.
not thinking. So
So,
I'm standing there shaking.
yeah, that's funny. We were, obviously, I ended up losing the fight to Carl Masu, and it was extremely close. I get it was, but I beat the fucking shit out of him. Like, one of us came out damaged and one of us didn't. But anyway, we were there at the Carl Amasu fight and showed up, and Joe always does this thing where, like, he'll point out something weird about the fighter to make me, like, feel better about myself. You know what I mean? Like to get me hyped up.
Mhm.
And, like, yeah, dude, as soon as we pulled up and we saw Carl Amasu, he was in, like, this fucking pink jacket.
Mhm.
I was like, bro, look at this dude's jacket. And Joe was just clowning the shit out of him. And obviously that, raised his spirits and whatnot. And Joe always does this thing where he's like, he's not the guy. He's not the guy. And, it panned out pretty good. Outside of losing, I mean, it was a kind of standout fight because, we did the fight and instead of, the crowd. All right, so this is post fight,
Oh,
obviously.
okay.
I walk out from the back room into
Mhm.
the crowd. The crowd stops cheering. They stop cheering the fight that's going on, and everyone in the crowd turns to me and they start cheering for me. They start cheering Caveman. This is during the main event.
Oh my god.
And dude, I'm a young fighter. Like, this is my first tournament I've ever done, and I'm like, holy shit, this is badass. And I'll never forget. Carl Amasu himself came up to me afterwards. He's like, you won that fight, blah blah blah.
Wow.
and he was cool as fuck. Honestly, like I have a lot of respect for him. Super nice dude. He invited me to come train with him and whatnot. You know, that's how it goes down. Like most of the time, you fight, and even if you do hate each other before the fight, you're usually friends afterwards.
And I mean, like you said, that's the camaraderie that comes with it. You come in with all that aggression, you come in with all that, competitive nature, because at the end of the day, you're working to provide for your family, you're working to make a name for yourself. But at the end of the day, once that's over, if someone can teach you something that you can learn from and grow better, like, why wouldn't you do it?
Yeah, and some people have to get in that kind of state of mind, man. Like some people have to be like mad when they fight. Like I mean, like look at the Diaz brothers, bro. Like, do you think they would go in and be like, "Hey, man, nice to see
Nice,
you.
yeah,
Looking forward to fighting the other day, or whatever." You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Like, yo, they're not gonna do that. They're gonna fucking talk shit, and they're gonna tell them these sucks, and they're little bitches and shit. And that's how they get into their fight. Like that's their thing, man. Like they really thrive off of that. For me, if I did that, I would feel fake.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like I would feel fake, so I couldn't do that. So I just, I play my little banter. I talk a little shit, but it's mostly like playful.
No, and I think for you, what you bring to the cage is perfect. Transition to the next thing, the walkouts. Um,
Yeah.
I was gonna play a video. I don't know if Bellator would get mad or if they're gonna be some copyright thing, so I'm not gonna do it. But they did a highlight of all your videos, and I remember being, cage side for the dinosaur walkout. And I remember it was one of the cutmen or one of the production guys. He looked at me and he goes, "Stop what you're doing. Get ready for what's about to happen."
Oh, for real?
And I was like, "Okay." And so I remember like stopped looking at everything else and I looked straight at you. And I remember you
Yeah,
seeing you come out and going, "This is the coolest shit I've ever seen."
that's dope, dude. That honestly was okay. So until that moment, until I walked out with the dinosaur, I had never seen the dinosaur at all.
What?
So I walked up and I'm sitting there and I'm like, holy shit, it's a fucking dinosaur. And I'm trying not to freak out, honestly, because I'm about to walk into one of at that time, very much so, the biggest fight of my life.
Hmm.
And I'm just sitting there freaking the fuck out. Like, there's a dinosaur right here. And yeah, I don't know, man. I just turned it on, like, and I was just, there's times in your career when it's like you just tapped in, like you're really tuned in,
Hmm.
and through that whole, that's what the great thing about the tournaments are is like if you're tuned in for fight one, then you're tuned in for two and three also.
Hmm. Because
You
there's
know
an
what I
end
mean?
goal in
Because
sight. Yeah.
they're so quick.
Hmm.
When you put these spans in between the fighters, like it just gets, you don't know where your mental frame is going to be at.
Hmm.
And truthfully, that's the real deciding factor on fights, man. Is like where your mental headspace is at, like how tuned in on the fight are you, as opposed to your head elsewhere. And during those tournaments, man, like even though I lost the Sada one fight, I was there. I was tuned in. I performed very well. And then the lightweight tournament, man, I was just fucking spot on, dude. I performed very well. Knocked out the striker who was knocking out everyone else, and yeah, it was. I mean, I'll never forget that weekend.
Well, and that's the thing is that, like you said, I miss those tournaments. I know that when I first started watching them, I was like, I don't really, I'm not really a big fan of this. But that's what Pride was. The heavyweight Grand Prix, all those Grand Prix were really like, hey, watch what's happening, what's going on, and I really love that. And I think Bellator should bring it back the way it was because it did, and hopefully after everything kind of goes together, they will bring it back the way it used to be. They call it, I know it's like taboo, the Bjorn days, because that was his thing. But it
Yeah, I
looks.
don't know, man. I really hope they do something like that again. I don't know, or somewhere does it. I know. Well, PFL does something similar, right?
Mhm, yeah, they've got it going on, and I think I'm surprised. other organizations haven't really changed a lot of what they've done because of PFL. Because, you got guys going to PFL and they're making more money losing than they were winning 3 or 4 fights in the UFC.
Yeah.
So, and I could think of, Alex Nicholson. He did the heavyweight tournament. Guy used to cut to 185. So he fought at
Yep.
middleweight, light heavyweight, and heavyweight. And I know when we talked, he said he made more money in 3 months with the PFL than he did in a year and a half with the UFC.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know if I'm supposed to talk about this stuff, but I was supposed to be in this tournament coming up.
What? All right, no, please do. I mean, at this point.
I mean, I hadn't signed the agreement and whatnot, but I was in full talks with PFL, and I still really like to compete for them. But man, I'm honestly in a between, and I'm just in a weird spot because I'm starting to fall in love with bare knuckle.
hmm
I know I haven't done it yet, but just watching it, like I'm like, man, this shit is. When I watch the bare knuckle, I'm like, this is badass. Like I fucking love this shit. And I get that it's not for everybody. Like some people, for whatever reason, don't like it. But man, it's pure excitement from start to fucking finish. And
It's
that's
brutal.
really what I'm all about, man. And what I love about Dave and the way he's been running the business is also that, um, he keeps guys around that are excited.
hmm
It's just dope. It's dope to see that. It reminds me of Pride. Guys like Wanderlei, Rampage. Obviously, they were winning a lot too. But like, dude, it didn't matter how you could hear the crowd. They didn't give a shit who won or lost.
No.
All they cared about was how how exciting and how crazy the fight was. You know what I mean? Like the people that threw down got taken care of.
Yeah, and well, think
And
about those Vanderlei fights where he, the clinch knees and Rampage just bounces his
yeah,
head. Like,
exactly,
that
man. They
is
got taken
crazy.
care of for just being wild as fuck.
hmm
And I just kind of love that about Bare Knuckle and Dave Feldman. Like, and he took care of me. Actually, I had that canceled bout.
Yeah, it was in
They
the
gave me a
March.
partial purse. They gave me a partial purse, which, as far as I've heard, the UFC wasn't even doing that for fighters. So
Mm-mm.
that's pretty cool.
No, and I can say I was not on the bare knuckle train. Um, when I heard it was coming to Tampa, I said I have to at least go check it out.
Yeah.
So I remember checking it out, and I can tell you, I've watched a lot of fights. I've been there for a lot of fights. I've been really close to a fight. Hearing Knuckles hit head is probably the most horrific sound I've ever heard in my life. Because
Dude, yeah.
there's nobody booing. There's nobody wooing, Ric Flair, but
Right.
it was just like you said, the 2 minute rounds, the ring itself, which Island Fights really took advantage of that when they did theirs, their regular MMA fights, and I feel
Right.
like it's great because there are times where people get stuck on the cage. You bounce off the ropes or you go through the ropes. There's one of two options.
Yep.
So
Big fact.
I was there for the Bigfoot and Gonzaga fight. It's actually there. It's one of those. And dude, that was nasty. But some of those fights were some of
Yeah,
the best
Bigfoot
fights.
got murdered, right?
Mm, yeah, it was bad.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna just be blunt with this one. There's a lot of people that give criticism to bare knuckle because they feel like they're bringing people in past their prime. But
I'll give my sense on that.
go for it. Yeah, and I
From a business standpoint, you have to.
mhm.
You have to get whoever you can. And fighters right now are honestly following the money.
hmm
We all fucking are. That's the real truth. And why? Okay, let's say you're in your prime
hmm
and you're gonna go to the UFC and get paid, 30 and 30 or 40 and 40 or 50 and 50
hmm
with with the chance of making millions.
hmm
the chance of making millions. And of course, it's called the UFC.
Yeah.
We know how big that brand is,
Mm-hmm.
dude. Bare Knuckle hasn't they haven't tapped through yet. They have to bring in these guys to bring viewers. They have to bring in these guys to get viewers to watch it. And I think once more people watch it, they might get accustomed. I find it very eerily similar to like early UFC when people even thought that was barbaric. You know what I mean? So
Well, and back then, you had Tank Abbott trying to throw people out of cages. You had fights where they were punching each other in the groin because it was legal and people tapping out.
yeah,
And then, of course, there's
right.
Art Jimerson, the one boxing glove.
One glove, baby.
But really, it was barbaric, and I think it's gonna take a lot for Bare Knuckle to keep breaching that. But I also think, putting guys in there, guys and girls, because I can tell you the women's fights in Bare Knuckle are
Badass.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure it was Delaney Owen, and I want to say it was Sheena Starr that went at, and that fight was incredible. Like,
Oh,
yeah, the Bare Knuckle is so good, and I'm going, this was better than an MMA fight.
yeah. No, I mean, so there's one fighter that I really love to watch in there, and it's Johnny Bedford.
Oh yeah, of course, brutal Johnny Bedford, man.
The fuck down, son. You can't convince me he's not in his prime
No,
when he's out there fighting, dude. You know what I mean? Like, so.
well,
I don't know. I don't necessarily think. I think they're doing well. Like, dude, they're picking up guys like me, Johnny Bedford, Thiago Alves. I think just signed.
I still want to see that. By the way, you and him.
Oh, dude, you know what's on the list. Actually, I want to run through Melvin Ballard first. He's always slick talking, and I actually like him. I had no problems with him. He's a good guy. As far as our interactions before, but man, he be slick talking, dude, and I will happily give it to him. You know what I mean? Like I owe it to him, honestly.
Yeah,
I owe it to him.
and that's the thing is that David Feldman, if you're listening, you just gave him 2 fights in a row to do.
Yeah,
Like,
for sure.
and then bringing Hector Lombard in. Like you said, Bigfoot Silva,
Oh,
Gonzaga.
Lombard, yeah, fucking Lombard's in here, dude. You're telling me these guys aren't still like, I mean, these guys are still extremely talented. You know what I mean? Like a lot of the names you're naming are. It's not like we're 50 years old. You know what I mean?
Shannon Briggs.
All right, that dude's lit. Yeah, but he's a heavyweight, right?
Yeah, and listen, no disrespect for the man. And that's the thing. I think as this sport continues, we've seen older guys start to do really well.
Do well. Yeah.
Daniel Cormier I think he's 41.
It's easier for bigger guys to do well.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
So the biggest question there is, you had, what was it, 23, 25 fights of Bellator. You had a lot. You were there for 9 years.
23.
23. What made you decide, besides the love of Bare Knuckle, that it was time to walk away from, a company that you had been bred up in, really? Because, when you joined Bellator, you were what, 5-0, 6-0?
Yeah, I'm 6-0.
So you were a baby.
Yeah.
So, how was it a hard decision?
Ended my career with Bellator at 22-7. 22-7. So
21, 6-2, according to Wikipedia, but who's counting?
Yeah, who's counting?
So was it a tough decision to walk away from Bellator, from that family, or was it just time to try something different?
I think as far as I became a free agent.
Mm-hmm.
And there was some discrepancies on where we were going to go coming forward, as far as like pay and stuff like that. And I'll never say Bellator was trying to treat me badly or anything like that, but we decided to test the open market, and I got some good offers from PFL
Hmm.
as well as Bare Knuckle.
Hmm.
So we started talking to them, and we made our choice, and that was it, man. So
So I mean, and like you said, I highly respect that you weren't like, well, Bellator didn't pay me enough money. I think fighters need to test the open market more.
yeah,
I think it's something, not just at the end of the day about your style or your, fame, let's call it, but your place in mixed martial arts. You can't, like they say, you can't say you're the best if you've only fought in this organization or this one. But Bellator really has done, I think, a better job than anyone else of homegrown talent. And when I talk about homegrown talent, I mean yourself,
we
Daniel
started from
Strauss,
square one,
yeah,
kind of build guys up. Yeah.
and putting a lot
Although I
into that.
definitely never got that AJ McKee treatment, or any of those other guys. I mean, I went right into the best of the best of Bellator, and honestly, just happened to win. And like, I felt like I was getting fed to the wolves, but I
Hmm.
won the fight. So it was kind of a cool gig. But yeah, I mean, I do like that they grow fighters. I
Hmm.
really do. I genuinely like that. Um, but they will, and here's their problem: is they sometimes babysit fighters a little bit too long.
Oh, okay.
Or I mean, I think so. Um, uh, shit, who was the okay? For example, and sometimes I think they make poor investments. Who was the? I don't know. They had some heavyweight that got knocked out by some guy who hadn't won a fight in 5 years
Oh God.
recently. You know who I'm talking
Yeah,
about,
I know who
right?
you're talking about.
Man, I don't know. Anyway, that's just my example. Was they had invested in this guy? I think he was like 6 or 7-0.
Hmm.
Some guy who hasn't won a fight in 5 years knocked him out. And shit. Obviously, there's flukes,
Hmm.
dude. I mean, we're talking about fighting with 5 or 4 ounce gloves. Excuse me.
Yeah.
And obviously there's flukes and stuff like that. But man, I mean, that shit's crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like,
And
I don't know.
you have to imagine that, fighting and investment banking are really closely tied in a lot more than you would think because, like you said, you make a bad investment, you're losing money.
Yeah, for sure. No, absolutely. Yeah.
So,
Man, I'm running super low battery.
oh no, don't die on me.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to wrap it up.
All right, so we're going to call this part one. Part two, we're going to talk about being a dad and a husband. Congratulations on that.
Okay. Yeah,
And
let's do it.
hey, I had a really good time, man. It was great to talk to you. As always, thanks epicjitstees.com. You can see it running across the bottom. My sponsor. Use promo code
Yeah,
QUIGS,
we're
QUI.
talking. Anything you want, brother.
All right, brother. Take it easy, and we'll go for part two next week.
All right, thanks, man.
Thanks, man.